So I have a question for. Wait, sorry, my phone screen's broke. I had to make sure I was recording. I have a question for people who do gig work as like a full time thing, or like if you're maybe just self employed in general and you fill out a 1099 every year. How do you handle people who will say you don't have a real job, or if you ever hit any kind of financial difficulty, then they'll automatically blame the fact that you did one of those jobs in the past. Um, how do you handle that? Like, when I was high school, my cousin, we're the same age. He had a job working at Burger King, and he worked there after we got out of high school for a little bit too. And then maybe a couple years ago, he started working at Walmart, the like distribution center. But the whole time he was at Burger King, people would always tell him, "Get a real job. You're wasting your life away." They would demean him, they would belittle him. I'm talking family members, I'm talking like my grandparents who basically raised us, but also friends, family, teachers would tell him this. He would tell me about how his teachers had told him this, and it would always really damage him. And like I feel like overall he would be a much happier person if he didn't take, the 10 year, I don't know if he worked there for 10 years, maybe like 6 years that he worked at Burger King. I don't know, maybe it was 10 years. It was so long ago. But just constantly being told, basically, you're worthless because you're just a burger flipper. You need to get a real job, blah, blah, blah. The whole time. He's working his ass off just to make breadcrumbs and do what he can to survive and do the only thing that he really had the option to do. I mean, it's not his fault that working at Burger King was just like the only job, like he could walk there. His mom worked there as a manager and stuff. And in general, it's just hard to find a job. It has been for a while. COVID made it a lot harder. But so he would always get really upset like in school and stuff because he didn't pass a certain test or he didn't get high enough grades or whatever. And he always was like, I'm just going to be stuck here just working this job I hate, flipping burgers. And I don't think he would have actually hated the job as much as he did if it wasn't drilled into his head every 2 hours. Get a real job. You're not doing a real job. Blah blah blah. Um you can do better in all this stuff, when he's trying his hardest and doing his best that he can do and just playing the cards he was dealt. And so every time somebody tells me that, oh, get a real job, that it always, makes me think of like all the people who've experienced it. But it reminds me of us when we were kids and people would do that to him, because I'd watch that just destroy him and break his spirits. And I would never tell somebody, oh, your job is not a real job. Like, if you have a W-2 or if you have a 1099, like, doesn't really matter if you're flipping burgers or if you're doing whatever. Like, it's all work that needs to be done. Basically, whenever somebody says, oh, that's not a real job, then why do we still have it, right? If working at a fast food place isn't a real job, then why don't we just close down the fast food places? Well, then people will say, well, that's just for high school kids to do as part-time. That's not meant for anybody to do as like a full-time real job. So fix it then. And instead of paying wages that are too low for somebody to live on and then blaming that person because there's no other, somebody has to fill that position, okay? If you look at it from that perspective, somebody's going to have to take the short stick. And it's probably going to be the person who's been dealt a really shitty hand already in life. So now you're going to shit on that person even more? Kick them while they're down kind of mentality. That's the vibe of this town.